There are three ways to start our fuel-injected engines, or at least three ways you'd normally start one. One would be a cold start, then we've got a warm start, and then a hot start. On the cold start, usually there's only one of those per day, and that'd be the first one. On a cold start, we need a little bit more fuel. So on a cold start, this is what I do, and it works for me. I'll go ahead and push the mixture all the way in. I'll run the throttle in about halfway because I want a little larger prime of fuel. I'll turn the master on, and then I'll go to high boost on the boost pump for about 3 seconds. Shut the boost pump off, bring the throttle back to idle, crank, and then as soon as the engine runs, my hand will drop from the ignition switch down to the boost pump switch. So if the engine starts to sputter and die, I can go ahead and turn the boost pump switch on and off and prime it and keep it going. That's a cold start. Now on a warm start, this would be if your engine's been shut down for maybe 2, 3, 4 hours. You know, it's been running during the day, but it's certainly not a hot start. The warm start is like the cold start, except you don't want to give it so much gas. You know, the hotter it gets, the easier it is to flood. So consequently, on a warm start, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll run the mixture in, but instead of pushing the throttle in halfway and getting a lot of gas, I'll only push it in maybe 1 inch to get a lot less fuel. So I'll push the throttle in about 1 inch, turn the master on, and now I'll turn the pump on for maybe only 1.5 seconds. I don't need the full 3 seconds I had before because I don't need all that fuel. So here again, mixture's in, throttle's in about 1 inch, 3/8, somewhere in there. About 1.5 seconds on the boost pump, shut it off, crack it. As soon as the engine starts, drop down to the boost pump switch, high boost to keep it going if you need to, and then shut it off. Make sure you always shut that boost pump off because it'll flood the engine out if you'll just let it run. Now the hot start's a little bit different, and there's really no reason to have trouble with a hot start if you understand the system. On a hot start, and this would be if the engine's been shut down for less than an hour. What I do and what works for me is when I get in the airplane, I don't touch the mixture, leave it full lean, just like it was when you shut it off. I'll run the throttle in maybe like 3/8 of an inch. I want a fast idle. You can't hot start an engine and idle it right away at 800 RPM, just doesn't work. So I've got that throttle in maybe 3/8 of an inch to give me 11 or 1200 RPM idle. Once it starts at that RPM and it forces the vapor out, then the engine settles down. You can back it down to 800 RPM without a problem. So I've got that throttle in about 3/8 of an inch for a fast idle. I'll go ahead and turn the master on, get my hand on the ignition switch, and then I just push the mixture control in. You know, I don't jam it in fast, but if you go too slow, it won't work either. So it's just a nice even push on in. As soon as I push the mixture in, I immediately crank the engine, goes around usually like 4, 5, 6 blades and starts because there's always enough residual fuel left to start the engine. Now there's not enough residual fuel to start the engine and keep it running until the engine-driven pump takes over. So consequently, what I'll do is when I push that mixture in and crank and the engine starts, immediately my hand drops to the boost pump switch, and while the engine is still running, as soon as you can, turn the boost pump on high boost for 2 or 3 seconds, and that usually will keep it running. As soon as it stays running, you can shut the boost pump off. Now, if you wait on the boost pump until the engine starts to die, it's too late. By the time you turn the boost pump on, for the fuel to get all the way around to the cylinders takes about 2 or 3 seconds. So you've got to kind of anticipate that. So once again, you just shove the mixture in, crack it. As soon as everything starts, hit the boost pump to keep it going, and then shut it off. That technique should work fine for you in the future.